Hey, it's Mike, and I just wanted to shoot a quick video for you and talk about something I think is very, very important, which is priorities. You may have heard the quote, "The man who tries to catch two rabbits at the same time catches none." I think that was by Confucius. And basically, that we live in a world today that we have so many opportunities. There's just so much information, there's so much going on that trying to do it all and accomplish it all really leaves us catching no rabbits or accomplishing very little. So one of the biggest distinctions that I made and that really helped me was the difference between nice to have and need to have. So it's nice to know all the best SEO strategies. It's nice to know all the best, sales tactics and things like that. The question is, do you really need to know that? And when it comes down to it, no. We probably don't need to know everything. We just need to know enough to get the 80% of the results that gets us the results, so to speak. So being able to decipher the difference between need to know and nice to know is huge, and also need to have versus nice to have. Okay, it's nice to have, this perfect ad or this perfect video or, having this set up a certain way, but really, do we need to have it? So I'm always thinking of these ideas. I always say I'm more of like an idea person. Like I just have all these ideas and I have to really ask myself, do I really need this? Is this really critical to achieve the goals I want? Or is this nice to have? It'd be cool or something like that. But really, do I need to have it? And usually it's a nice to have. It'd be cool, but really it's not a necessity. Because we only have so much time, we only have so much energy throughout the day. For me, I know I have like one chunk of energy in the morning where I'll work on my biggest priority, and then by 2 o'clock I'm usually pretty tired. That's when I'll take a nap or just like zone out and do something, and then maybe from like 4 to 5 or 6 I'll have another chunk, and that's pretty much it. And then I usually have another chunk at the end of the day, but usually I'm hanging out or doing something fun versus working. And another thing, what I said there of how I chunk my priorities is, obviously you probably know the quote from Michael Gerber, is to work on your business, not in your business. So really, there is some things you have to work in it, and obviously you want to do the things that work on your business, building the systems. So I usually have a simple to-do or kind of like a filter in my mind where I have like a, kind of just split the piece of paper 50-50. One side put working on almost the priorities, and the other side we're doing working in. So maybe working in, I have to create a certain custom report for a client or just a report, and maybe I need to fix one of their websites or do something like that. So that's kind of working in, versus working on is kind of the big pieces that are more hard to delegate. So when I write this to do, the first thing I say is, what is critical, what is actually needed, and kind of I move it over like down below to the nice to have. If it's not needed, but it's nice to have. And then my second thing is, I'm like, what can I delegate? Now, the approach I take is literally everything can be delegated. Now, I know I used to think that even there's one thing that you can never delegate, which is thinking about the business and strategizing and having the vision. I've read books and say the entrepreneur has that special, unique ability and role to envision how the business is going to evolve and what it needs to happen and things like that. But I've realized actually that can be delegated as well. That's actually much harder because that is, a certain personality type that likes risk, big thinking, big picture stuff like that, and can see all the pieces. And obviously a lot of experience and learning and principles we're acting on as, CEOs or entrepreneurs. But that can be delegated, but that's more ambiguous of a role. There's a lot of more training needed, but it can be delegated. So I figure, what is the easiest to delegate? And there's tons of different delegation stuff, but sometimes it's just giving the exact steps. Sometimes it's just giving the outcome. So you say, what can I delegate? And then you have left, the big priorities working on the business, the things that will really move you forward, the big pieces, kind of creating the system for reporting. Maybe it's working on a sales letter, maybe it's working on an ad, maybe it's working on a product or something like that, and then the working in the pieces. So the first part of my day is working on the business, those big pieces, those kind of the best ideas, and really I get clear on what those are, if they're critical, and then if I can't delegate them, then, or if they're too complex and hard to delegate, then I'm going to focus my first few hours a day on that, and then I'll do working in the business type of stuff that I have to. But again, first working on it, the big pieces, and to know those big pieces, obviously we need to get clear on our goals. What are our outcomes? What do we want to have happen? Because if we're not clear on the goals, well then the priorities are very hard. So it's once you know the goals and more clear on the vision of how you want things to, all the conditions you want, and the actual specific tangible goals you want, then you can work backwards. Okay, what are the pieces I need to put in place? Another big insight that I had on priorities is that, yes, we want to focus on one thing at a time, but also we want to, kind of on the peripheral vision, know what else needs to be in place. Because what I found is I'll go get clients, I'll hustle, get clients, and then, oh, I got to fulfill it. And I'll kind of focus all my energy on fulfillment, and then I'll realize, oh, my sales ability went down, and I stopped getting leads, so I need to go back to that. And it was like this back and forth thing. I never got really any momentum. So while we do want to focus one thing at a time, I think it's really, my biggest insight is that we also want to be clear on what are the other pieces. An example from my life right now, I'm working on Operator Pro Legacy, what it's called, and it's a more in-depth systems training and sharing all of my systems. So the first thing I did was, obviously I built the group and kind of was sharing some insights and getting feedback on where people are at, what people like, just experimenting, getting out there, kind of getting things started. And obviously that was a domino that once I had this group, well, I mean, yeah, I can just keep giving away free stuff, but I can also create a product, and then I can go deeper with a few select people. So that was the first thing, the group. And then I wrote the sales letter explaining what the product is before I made the product. So next, once I have a sales letter, I'm like, oh, now I need to really kind of materialize that product, really be able to explain all the systems and all the advanced stuff. So then I had to build the product. And then I have to go back and kind of tweak the sales letter, and then I have to make sure that there's enough people in the group to kind of achieve my goals. Another thing is, I set a goal for, like, my goal was, obviously this is just kind of a side business, if you can call it, this Operator Pro. My goal was 10 people into this program. I want to go deeper with, 10 people in this program. So also, goals are good, but can I really make 10 people join this program? No, I can't make anyone join anything. So while goals are good to have, it's also, I think, you need to have a level of unattachment, because especially money goals and sales goals, you can't really do anything, but you can do the actions, you can do your best, learn, get feedback, and keep going. So now that I know I want 10 people, there's maybe 400 people in this group, so that means the conversion rate would have to be about 2% to get those 10 people. But then I know, okay, not everyone's going to even know about the product, not everyone's going to check the group, not everyone's going to be qualified, not everyone's going to buy. So a systems perspective, at each drop point, only so many people are going to go to the sales letter, only so many people are going to buy, etc., etc. So there is a certain number that is most likely, most probability, highest probability to work. So kind of working back in the goals, then I can see the system or all the pieces. So when I'm working on the sales letter, I'm saying, okay, what am I going to put in the product? So then I explain that in the sales letter. The sales letter, I'm like, okay, now I actually, what I said in the sales letter, I have to put in the product, and then I have to actually build the group so it's enough people to reach my goals. So while I'm working one thing at a time, I'm also kind of looking at the pieces as a whole. So I think that really, really helps me get momentum. And then, obviously, my other biggest insight was, well, maybe not obviously, but was to kind of get the whole team to think and work like this too. So the team also works on the business versus in the business. And the team thinks about all the pieces and not just one piece. So my biggest insight there also was to work the team kind of working in the same way. So the team knows about systems, about priorities, about working on versus working in and things like that. So I just want to say, make sure you're clear on your priorities. To be clear on your priorities, you need to be clear on your goals and visions, and then what can you delegate, what's easiest to delegate, and then what's priority, what do you want first, second, third, but also thinking about everything as a greater concept, and keep doing that. And also, you'll figure out too that when you do these priorities, that your mental map or how you thought things were going to be aren't necessarily how they are. So you're constantly updating your to-do list, so to speak, or you're updating your mental map of how things work and what needs to be done. So you have to be very flexible in your approach. So committed, but also flexible, working on the priorities one by one, but also having the zoomed out peripheral view of all the pieces so you can start connecting them up. And when you start connecting all the pieces and just getting those set up, those are kind of projects, setting it up, and then you run the system, you keep getting feedback of what works, what doesn't, and changes your mental map as well. Keep getting the feedback, what works, throwing out what doesn't work, keeping what works, scaling what works, putting new pieces in that didn't work, and eventually you'll keep tweaking the system to achieve the financial goals and have the conditions of working on what you want instead of being needed by the business, working on tasks that are important but you don't necessarily like them, being able to work on what you enjoy and what you excel at. So I hope you got a lot of this video. Just kind of wanted to make a quick video, just talking about my thoughts on priorities. I think it's huge, so I hope you got a lot of value out of this. And like this video, leave a comment, let me know what you thought. And this is Mike, and I'll talk to you again very soon.